It's great to be out there, back out on the field with the team, first to 15. And one thing is very clear after the first day is that we got a lot of energy, a lot of people that are passionate about football, and a lot of things to work on. Questions?
Kyle, your impressions of the quarterbacks their first day, all three of them?
I think, to me it looked like we took advantage of the winter. It looked like they took advantage of the opportunity that they had without the coaching staff to go out there and throw and catch. I thought, when we were working in individual, working in 7-on-7, it was pretty clean, and we got some stuff to clean up in team, but there's a lot more moving pieces when you get to those periods.
How much do you think changed for Hayden going from being scout team last year to obviously right in the thick of things?
It's a 180-degree change. It's completely different. You're on the scout team, you're reading a card, and a majority of the time the defensive coaches are telling you where they want you to throw it. So you're not even making a decision off of a card. They're telling you throw it to this guy because that's the ball we're trying to trigger on defense. There's really no comparison to it other than the fact that you're throwing and catching. So mentally, it's a lot more work.
Night and day with Laviano from where he was 2 years ago when he arrived, and how much did it being a backup help him?
Certainly, he's come a long way from when he started. 2 years ago, I don't know how much of an opportunity he was getting. We had Gary, we had Chase, so there's some established guys here. What was the second part, Keith?
How much did being a backup last year help him?
Yeah, I think it's an advantage. Yeah, there's definitely an advantage to being in the game plan, to having to take reps during the week, even though you don't get quite as many as the starter gets, and sometimes you don't get any. But mentally, you get to take them, you get to be on that side of the field, you get to hear the coaching. So there's a lot of advantages to it.
How about for Hayden coming from LSU I know it's going back a year, but he spent that year at LSU. Did he come in? How did he come in last year, a year ago? Because he hasn't played football in 2 years. Do you think he got something out of the LSU experience as well?
We weren't really involved with him in high school, so it'd be tough for me to say what the value of that was. I know he was on the scout team there as well, so probably a similar type experience. I'm sure there was some growth.
Kyle, he's a big kid with a strong arm. What impresses you beyond that when you look at him, what you see?
The things that I look for, those things are easily identified, when you put film on, when you're recruiting a player. But it's the other things. It's how hard he works. It's his passion to be a great football player. He's a high intangible guy. Those are the things ultimately that separate the players when you get to this level.
What are you looking for at corner and running back where some key pieces are missing? Guys are getting more opportunities.
We need guys to go out there and compete every day. You talk about running backs. The first thing they better do is protect the ball. The second thing they better do is protect the quarterback. And then if they do those two things, they'll get an opportunity to run the football. And we've got guys here who've done that, so we're fortunate. At corner, we're a little bit younger. So I want to see them take coaching. I want to see them come out every day and show us that they love football, show us that they want to help us win a championship. And as they do that, they'll get an opportunity. But I think they did that today, but it's the first of 15, so we'll come back out Wednesday and do it again.
I see EJ's listed as the director of recruiting. Talk about the decision there and what he brings.
EJ's a guy who's very passionate about New Jersey, very passionate about Rutgers football, and had a lot of relationships already, which I think is a positive in college athletics. I know one of the reasons that Greg brought me in to interview with some of the relationships that I had within the state, and EJ's got a lot of those relationships as well. So he's very passionate about what we do here and wanted to be a part of it. And I think those kind of people are invaluable to your organization.
How about Terrence Scanlon? I just saw him thrown a little at quarterback. He's listed as a receiver. I know he played some quarterback at Monmouth. What kind of versatility does he have for you in practice?
Terrence a great kid. When he came here, he wanted to be a quarterback. We didn't really have room in that room at that point to do it. But we said, hey, if you want to help us, we need some help at receiver. So he said, Coach, I'll do whatever you want for the team. So he's a selfless kid, and he wanted to come back and try quarterback. So we told him, hey, listen, we'll give you the opportunity to do that, and he'll get that opportunity this spring. But just an awesome young man to be around.
Could Mueller get a look at center?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll see Derek Nelson at center. You'll see Dorian Miller at center. You'll see Chris Muller at center. You may see Marcus Applefield at center at some point. I've always believed you got to have a lot of people who can snap the ball, because you can get in trouble in a hurry if you don't. I learned that a long time ago from a very experienced line coach.
Okay, you talked on Friday about just how the team did really well in the winter workouts. Is there any guys that stood out that made maybe some significant gains?
I think there's more than a few. 19 records I thought was significant. So I'm pleased with where a lot of these guys have been able to take themselves. I thought Davon Jacobs again had a tremendous off-season program, and now is going to have a great chance to have that translate onto the field.
Kyle, where do you have to improve to get into that category with the Ohio States, with those other dominant programs in the conference?
I think there's a lot of people in the Big Ten right now that are trying to do that. There's no doubt, but this is not the time of the year we're focused on that. We're focused on ourselves. The thing about college football is every year your team is different. You don't get to sign guys to longer contracts like you do in the NFL. It's not. There's no free agency. So your football team's different. You have players that graduate, then we've got some players that are coming in. We've been able to add 4 guys already. We'll add more in the summer. And the most important thing we can do right now is not focus on anybody else other than ourselves. This is a time of the year where we've got to develop ourselves as a football team. And then as we get closer to the season, we'll start the game plan.
Or in terms of the filling the spots in the offensive line?
I think we're going to need versatility. I don't think it's going to be a situation where it'll just be 3. I think we're going to need more than that because I'm not so sure that the starting center or the backup center may not come from somebody who played last year. That's certainly something that could happen with Chris Muller taking as many snaps as he is. So I think we need to find the guys who can be reliable, who have some versatility to play in different spots, and then ultimately put the best 5 on the field, and then make sure whoever goes in as the 6th man is the next best player. It's a very demanding position physically and mentally. We've got 9 guys right now that are working there as of today, and we're going to need to make a lot of progress this spring.
We have 2 more questions.
Are turnovers an emphasis this spring, forcing turnovers?
Always. It was something we talked about last year, and then we went back and we looked at it again. I think we were 5-1 last year. We won the turnover battle within games. I had the stats up this morning in the team meeting. But, when you win the turnover battle since 2009, we win over 80% of our games at Rutgers. So it's significant. Taking the ball and then taking the ball away and securing the ball when you're on offense.
You mentioned EJ coming back, a guy like Scott Valone coming back and working out there. How much does his energy and his experience kind of add to everything out there?
It's exciting. I think it's contagious. Scott's another guy, very passionate about this university, very passionate about this football program, and somebody who loves football. And when you take young players and you put them around people that love football and are enthusiastic, it's contagious, and they learn in a hurry.